here. Oh my goodness. Aren't you excited? 2021.
I know, I'm so done with 2020. Yeah, for sure.
All right, so what are we talking about today?
Well, I know that everyone will be in their mind talking about their like weight loss.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean,
For sure.
I have it at the clinic and we're doing it just because everybody does that. I'm completely, not of the mind that you have to wait till January 1 to quit smoking or to start any healthy behavior.
But if you are, I'm very happy for you, and we are here to help,
But it's really just keeping, so yes, have an intention, set it in motion, but the consistency to have it as a part of your life, which means that it doesn't last for 2 or 3 days, is really, I think, what we need to talk about, right? So how do you set specific goals that are sustainable, maintainable, and then what are your goals that are realistic as well,
Yeah.
So what's yours?
Well, obviously to stay healthy. I mean, in all honesty, the last couple of years, I haven't been as diligent as I've needed to be, and so that consistency with my health and being healthy, of course, means exercise and eating well. But besides that, I also want to be intentional about sleep, because that's something that's simple and very important.
Yeah.
But then it also means that I have to change something, like I have to give up something, which for me really means 30 minutes before, I don't sit behind the TV at 9:30 and start to get into a movie when I want to be in bed 30 minutes later. I think that's a simple change.
Okay.
Attainable.
So for me, I don't even know what.
I know what I could tell you to do.
What?
Take time for you.
Yeah, I'm always doing for everyone. Is that what?
I think so. Yeah, just take time for you, unapologetically.
Yeah, that would be so hard. I don't even know how we do that.
Why?
No, I do. I feel like I have balance, although everyone tells me I don't. I don't want this to go into a therapy session.
It's not a therapy session. You're the guru.
I think it's fair. I always think that you can't help somebody else until you've taken a deep dive and taken a good look at yourself.
100%.
So yeah, I'm always willing to go to a counselor, have coaches to exercise. I'm willing to do the work that it takes to get there so that I can then help other people, but yeah, it was interesting when you say that, that I do think that is a struggle for me. I know my patients struggle with that, and I have to help them, set boundaries, and I'm much better than I used to be, but still, I do think that. So what is my intentional goal? Even with my trainer, I was like, well, I don't really know where I want to go physically, because I'm happy. I'm not trying to get thinner.
Yeah.
Or I just am happy, at where I'm at. And so I exercise to just maintain. So I'm going to have to think about my New Year's resolutions or goals.
Yeah. Well, there is something, I read it somewhere, that a lot of New Year's resolutions fail.
Yes.
And I want us to talk about, why do New Year's resolutions fail in the first place, and it's because we set unrealistic goals. I used to say to my patients, to be healthy, you have to be eating all these vegetables and stop doing this and that. And, they come and see me over and over again, and it's still the same thing. But it's because I have set for them an unrealistic goal, whereas they need to set for themselves attainable goals, right? Small, micro goals that are easily attainable,
and then measurable.
And measurable.
Yeah. So when I work with patients on those kind of things, when they say, I want to, do that every day, I'm like, well, why don't we just commit to 2 to 3 days a week? And they're like, okay, no. Because that way, if you said I'm going to do it on Tuesday, but you didn't, you still have Wednesday, Thursday, you still have the ability to be able to be successful instead of then having set yourself up for failure,
Right.
you know. So don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Is allow yourself to fail. Set goals that are that you're capable of. Even with my managers, I actually tell them, what would you like to do in order for, we have like targets and goals. What would you like to set for yourself as your goal? I don't actually set their goals for them, because then now you can't tell me you didn't meet it. You're the one who came up with it.
Your own goal. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's, so measurable, meaning, okay, so did you eat 1 cup of rice like you said you were going to, or did you eat, less rice? Did you eat a smaller bowl versus a big plate? I mean, if you can measure it, then you can really say that you did it. That's why we ask you to use a pedometer, or you can use your iPhone to really track what you are truly exercising versus, well, I increase my walking,
But how much? Like, really? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or person who says they drink, a gallon or a liter of Coke every single day. Well, can you cut it in half, And even that, so that's a measurable goal.
Right.
I did not have this whole bottle today. I only had half.
Mm-hmm.
That's attainable.
Well, the other thing is not to just do taking away bad stuff. I think what you said at the very beginning is really important, is that you can add good stuff.
Right.
So the goal is not to always have, kind of a negative experience, but I'm going to eat more vegetables, right? I'm going to be outside in nature. If you happen to exercise while you're there, that's great. But if you need to trick your mind into thinking, oh, I'm going to do something that is just, fresh air and breathing, and then you've allowed yourself and given yourself room to succeed, but not said, oh, I'm going to go run 3 times a week,
Well, even with exercise, people have this idea that it has to be this whole ordeal. They say, well, if you haven't been exercising, just tell yourself, I'm going to do a little bit of exercise for 5 minutes. Start there. And you'll find out that you're going to do way more than 5 minutes, Like yesterday when I thought, anyway, that's a long story, but yeah.
So when you've been exercising and you've really committed and you've held it together for all this time, I do think accountability
for sure
really helps. So I always tell people, I'm like, hey, post it if you do it. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, post it, and because I'm watching you, I know what you're doing, and I see when you're all excited because you did it 3 times, but then wait, what happened to her post? And I'm not going to shout out names, although you know who you are. I know when you're not, because it's just radio silence, all of a sudden, and you didn't think I was going to notice, because I'm going to see you in another month, and I'm going to be like, hey, what happened? But yeah, so I hope you caught some of the things that we were talking about very specifically. And that was setting realistic goals,
setting measurable goals,
set sustainable goals, something that you can continue,
and accountability.
Yeah. And then after you set your goals, then you have to then be really honest with yourself and say, what are my barriers to meeting my goals, and what are the odds that I'm going to do it? Because I love it when I asked them, I said, well, what are the odds that you're really going to check your blood sugars 3 times a week? And they're like, well, maybe 50%. I'm like, hell, you came up with this goal. You said this, right? And you only think there's a 50% chance that you can do it? So how is that even possible? So I'm like, well, what's your barrier? What stopped you from getting there? And they're like, well, the strips are expensive. Okay. Well, why are they expensive? They're not covered under your insurance. Okay. Well, is there another machine that is? Yeah, and it's 100% covered, and so are the strips. Well, why don't we change that? So then I'm saying, okay, now if the strips are free and it's covered under your insurance, then will you be able to meet your goal of checking your blood sugar 3 times a week? And they're like, oh yeah, for sure. And I'm like, okay, So sometimes you have to really think through, what are the things that prevent you? Always I hear about the weather. Oh, it was cold outside, so no, honey, you can just sit. So the other day, I actually had someone, okay, and I had them get up, and the clinic. Remember that one I posted when I had someone do that exercise
Right.
video? So I had them just start walking like this while I was in clinic. And so I was sitting there talking like this. I mean, and look, I can actually walk with heels on. And it is actually increasing my heart rate.
Right.
And so people think that, well, I can't do, well, maybe I can dance as well. Hey. Okay, sorry. Focus. All right. So you can move and you don't have to have certain clothes on. You don't have to have, new shoes. You don't have to have a treadmill. It doesn't have to be perfect. I can feel my heart rate going up, and as I'm just standing here walking, and there's nothing. Oh, I nearly hit you.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. All right. So you can see that even in Sparkly, that you can increase your heart rate, energize yourself, and feel better. And it's a simple.
You're breathing hard.
I am breathing hard.
Yeah,
I am.
You made that point.
Yeah, like actually doing it in heels requires core strength too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been getting movement in that same way. I'll put myself as an example. Why was I not exercising? Well, barrier was myself. I came to realize that I did not like certain kinds of exercise. And so how did I get over, or how do I get over myself? I put myself on the line, accountability. If there is a coach on the other end waiting for me at 5:30, will I show up? Yes. How do I know that? Because that's what was successful for me in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So
is that what you're doing now?
Yeah.
Or you just,
yeah, I've called her back up, and she's been working with me. And
my
that's great.
babysitter is amazing. And sometimes people are like, well, it's easy because then you put money behind it. Well, yeah, that's where I choose to put where I spend money. I mean, I can either buy lots of fancy clothes, which I do too. But I think it's important for me to have mental stability. And that's why I exercise,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Happy New Year. And we love you, and we hope you are just gaining a few things from this video series we've been doing for y'all. We would love to hear what y'all are going to be working on, what your goals are. If you can actually go specifically into what are all of the measurable, sustainable, realistic goals with the barriers and stuff, we would love to know about it. We'd love to help you get there. And I think a lot of people are just paralyzed by if they actually say it, then when they fail, what will that mean? Mm-hmm. Well, it'll mean that you failed, and then you just pick yourself back up, and you learn resilience, and you work towards reaching your goal. But if you don't ever
in itself, like is not even it's an opportunity to learn what didn't work, and so you're still making progress. You know what I mean?
100%. I mean, failure is a sign of success.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because if you're not failing much, then you ain't doing much, apparently. Mm-hmm. I didn't say it correctly, but you know what I mean.
All right, guys.
Next time on Talk Times Tuesday, which will be next week, we'll be talking about, what are we talking about next week?
It'll be a surprise to both us and them.
It'll be a surprise to both of us. Bye.
Bye.